A day to the US presidential election, and the votes of the many thousands of Americans based here in London could make a real difference to the outcome. But what's it like to be a Londoner living in America right now? Catherine Clare has lived in New York for 2 years now. Oh, Catherine Clark, I do apologise, and joins us now live. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
OK, so Jo mentioned the election fever. She was in New York, I was in Gettysburg. Is there any escape from it for you, or is it just about everywhere?
It's just about everywhere, and in fact I've just come back from Ohio where I was registering early voters. So there's an amazing thing there called Golden Week, which has just happened, which basically means that people could go and register and vote in the same day. And it was taking place from September 30th to October 6th. And I was helping shuttle people from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. First-time voters from the university there. There's a 50,000 student university in Ohio, in Columbus. And we registered a total of 3,300 voters who were all going to vote for the man with the plan.
When you say register them, are these first-time voters?
They are first-time voters or people who hadn't... so there's a lot of students, obviously.
And when you say the man with the plan, presumably, although you can't vote, you're an Obama supporter then, are you?
I am, yeah. I've been paying taxes here for 2 years, and I live in...
Hang on, whoa. You're getting taxation without representation. Isn't that what started the American War of Independence? Sort it out, lads.
It's totally unfair.
Of course, we should say, though, that a lot of research shows that people who register to vote for the first time are often those least likely to vote. They may register, they may not turn up on the day.
Well, that's the whole thing. So we were providing a shuttle service to take them there to register and vote in the same moment. So basically, I went down with one of the shuttles, and it took literally half an hour for the people to go in, to give their identification in, to be handed a form and the ballots. And in America, actually, it's interesting. You don't just vote for people. You actually vote on issues that range from things like a new casino in Columbus, which was one of the issues they had, to, certain taxation rules. So they actually had a 3-page ballot, so it took quite a while to...
So there's an element of referendum in it then, as well as an election, which of course an election is a referendum, but it's about specific things like local changes.
Exactly, as well as the president. And in fact, an interesting fact is that Ohio is a very important swing state, and in fact, in every election bar 2 since the 1890s, Ohioans have voted for the candidate who then went on to become president. And in the previous election, in 2004, Kerry was beaten by Bush by 2%, so you can see that it's a very important state. So a good friend of mine here organised a campaign called Vote Today Ohio and said, Catherine, you can't vote, so why don't you just come and use your enthusiasm and charm to convince other people to vote.
It is amazing, because I've just got back from New York, and I have to say Sarah Palin is probably one of the most unpopular people. It's more anti-Palin than it is McCain, over there. I went to a comedy show, and she was like the butt of all the jokes. Letterman was talking about it. Well, things that amaze me in America is, over here we keep our cards very close to our chest. Well, we certainly do as presenters, as to how we can vote. But I was watching The View, which is the equivalent to Loose Women, and they all talk about in what direction they're going to vote, which is very open, isn't it, over there?
It is, and I mean the whole campaign. I mean, A, it's so much longer, and B, it's so much more personal in a way. When they presented Palin, her whole family was on stage, and my parents were over from the UK at the time, and I think they were quite shocked.
Well, in the same way, though, that Obama had his whole family on the stage, though.
True. I mean, that's what I mean. It's actually kind of what is expected here in terms of...
Do you think there's any element of sexism in the way that both Hillary Clinton and now Sarah Palin are being portrayed by the chat show hosts and talk show hosts? When I was in America last May, and Hillary Clinton was still in the running, they were selling, for example, Hillary Clinton toy nutcrackers, implying that she would be castrating male people in the Senate and Congress. Do you think there's any element of sexism there in both Palin and Clinton?
I think in any, conversation there's an element for people to be bigoted and to have a certain opinion. But the fact is, the facts speak for themselves. I mean, America needs an immediate change that is a completely new approach to running this country. And the thing about Hillary Clinton, although I initially was also a supporter of her, basically she's a Clinton, and we've already had a Clinton, like we've already had a Bush. So to actually support as somebody else entirely who isn't being backed by big companies, who isn't,
With respect, though, Catherine, he is being backed by big companies. They all depend on huge donations, both Democrat and Republican, and the Democratic Party is probably to the right of our Conservative Party. So it's a big business country, and he's a big business candidate almost as much as McCain.
He's certainly a very well. Basically, I mean, I just think he's. I think that most Americans at this point, I hope, are also agreeing that he's a fresh take on the whole stale situation which has arrived here. And you know, in terms of the fiscal crisis, living in New York, I mean, this city thrives on Wall Street, and without Wall Street money pumping into other sectors, you know, we're really. You know,
which is big business, isn't it?
I was saying, Catherine, we were watching Good Morning America when they cut into a what's his name? Russell Crowe. A Russell Crowe interview to bring you hot news, breaking news from Wall Street, which was very, very dramatic. And you know, so you've got you've got whacking great stories, haven't you, running in America at the moment? You've got obviously the whole world financial crisis and an election, and they go hand in hand, I suppose.
Well, you would hope so. I mean, but actually talking to people, in Ohio, not everyone necessarily, thinks that, and so basically a lot of what I was doing was just talking to people about, why it's important to vote, because in fact the whole world is looking right now, and some people, were just bowled over that somebody who was English cared enough to sort of go over and talk about it, and they were saying...
Did any of them think you're Australian? I got that a lot in Gettysburg.
I did get
They all think you were Australian.
Yes.
Are you an arsey? No, I'm a limey, you mug.
Listen, we have to leave it there. Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Catherine Clark, who is a Brit living in New York. And, if you think we're hearing a hell of a lot about it over here, be over there.